The boutique sat quietly on the corner of 5th and Oak, the kind of place with frosted windows, no price tags, and a bell that rang soft and slow when you opened the door. Most people walked past it, assuming it wasn't for them. But that morning, a woman named Anna Ruiz stepped inside. She didn't look like their usual client. Her linen dress was plain, her sandals worn. She carried a canvas tote instead of a designer purse. No makeup, no jewellery, just calm eyes and soft features that held the kind of quiet you only see in people who've lived through hard things and learned to breathe through them. The saleswoman behind the counter looked up, blinked twice, and then forced a tight smile. "Can I help you?" she asked, already half turning back to her tablet. Anna glanced at the display. A delicate pink diamond necklace rested on a velvet bed, glowing under a focused light. "It's beautiful," she said softly. The woman laughed, a short, sharp sound. "Yes, it's not really something we take out, unless there's a serious buyer, though." Anna tilted her head. "And how would you know if someone's serious?" The saleswoman blinked again, this time slower. "We can usually tell." From across the room, a younger man in a suit stepped forward. He looked Anna up and down, from the strap of her bag to the scuff on her heel. "Ma'am, if you're just browsing, maybe try the shops on Maple," he said. "We get a lot of walk-ins." Anna didn't flinch. She just looked at him, then back at the necklace. "I'd like to know more about this piece, if that's all right." Now the saleswoman was fully turned, hands on her hips. "Look, this is a $700,000 necklace," she said, louder now. "It's not for tourists or—" Her eyes swept Anna's outfit. "Window shoppers." Someone near the door laughed. 2 other women, dressed head to toe in designer brands, had just walked in and heard the tail end of the comment. One of them whispered something, and the other pulled out her phone. "Is she serious?" one said, loud enough to carry. "Trying on $1 million diamonds in a farmer's market dress?" The room shifted. The tone was no longer cold, it was cruel. Anna looked around. She opened her mouth to speak, but stopped. Her fingers curled gently around the tote bag strap, the way you might hold onto yourself when no one else in the room will. And in that moment, something in the air broke. The saleswoman leaned forward. "Do you even have an appointment?" she said. "Or are you just here to waste time?" Anna paused. Her voice was steady when she answered. "No, I don't have an appointment, but I'm not here to waste time either." The silence that followed wasn't respectful. It was mocking, the kind of silence where people wait for the punchline. But Anna didn't give them one. She simply stepped back from the display, took out her phone, and dialed a number. "I'll be outside," she said quietly, more to herself than anyone else. As she turned to leave, someone snapped a photo, and the first message hit a private group chat full of elite clients. The shoplifter who thinks she's royalty. Anna stood outside the boutique, the morning sun warming her shoulders, but she didn't notice. Her eyes were fixed on the screen of her phone, her thumb hovering over the call log. She took a slow breath, pressed Blake, and brought the phone to her ear. It rang once. "Hey," came the voice, deep, steady, familiar. Anna didn't answer right away. There was a pause. "Anna, everything okay?" She hesitated. I just walked into a store. They didn't let me stay." Blake was quiet for a moment. "What happened?" "They thought I didn't belong, that I was—" She laughed a little, dry and sad. "A tourist playing dress-up." Blake's voice changed, still calm but lower, firmer. "Where are you?" "Still here, 5th and Oak. I think it's called Maison Vert." "Stay there, I'm on my way." She didn't argue. She just sat down gently on the bench outside the boutique, placed her tote in her lap, and looked at her reflection in the glass. A woman in her 40s with clear eyes and soft lines around her mouth stared back. Inside, the boutique buzzed with soft laughter and murmurs. The women in heels sipped free espresso and scrolled through their phones, still chuckling over the group chat. One zoomed in on Anna's photo and typed, "I think she took something. Her bag looked full." It didn't take long. The security guard appeared at the boutique's entrance, tall and broad-shouldered, wearing a forced smile and an earpiece. "Ma'am," he said, stepping outside. Anna looked up. "I'm going to need to check your bag, just a routine thing." "No one else had their bags checked," she said quietly. "Yeah, well, there was a report. From inside, you match the description." "What description?" He shifted. "Middle-aged, wears flats, linen dress, left in a hurry." Anna didn't move. She just looked up at him, eyes calm. "So me." He nodded slightly, avoiding her gaze. "If you could just open the bag, ma'am." She paused, then slowly, deliberately unzipped the tote and turned it toward him. Books, a notepad, a half-eaten granola bar, nothing else. He glanced inside, nodded stiffly. "You're good." But it was too late. Someone had filmed the whole thing, from the moment he approached her to the moment she opened the bag, and that video, shaky and grainy, made its way onto TikTok. Within 10 minutes, it had a caption: "Karen gets caught stealing diamonds." It wasn't the truth, but truth moves slower than gossip. Inside the boutique, Vanessa leaned over to the younger man and whispered, "This is why we screen people. Can't just let anyone walk in off the street." And from her seat outside, Anna heard it all through the thin glass. She didn't cry. She didn't shout. She just sat quietly watching the street, waiting. And then, 27 minutes later, a silver Rolls-Royce pulled up to the curb. The door opened slowly. Blake Monroe stepped out. And the moment his polished shoe hit the pavement, the laughter inside that boutique stopped cold. The boutique door swung open as soon as Blake stepped inside. His presence didn't need to be announced. It filled the space without a word. Tall, clean-cut, dressed in a dark suit that whispered wealth rather than screamed it, Blake Monroe didn't look angry. He looked focused, the kind of focused that made people nervous. Vanessa blinked twice, suddenly unsure of the air she was breathing. The other clients, the ones who'd laughed, pointed, whispered, fell silent like someone had cut the sound in the room. Blake's eyes scanned the boutique once, then landed on her. "You're the manager?" he asked. Vanessa stood a little straighter. No, I'm the lead associate, but..." He raised a hand to stop her, calm but final. "Who spoke to the woman outside?" Vanessa swallowed. "You mean the lady who..." Blake tilted his head. "You know who I mean." She nodded slowly. "That was me, but we didn't know..." "You didn't need to know who she was," he said, stepping forward. "You only needed to know she was a person." The room held its breath. Blake glanced at the display, the pink diamond necklace still resting in its case, untouched. "She came here for that?" he asked. Vanessa nodded, her voice smaller now. "Yes, but we didn't think..." Again he interrupted, but not unkindly, just clearly. "How much is it?" The boutique owner, Mr. Duca, finally stepped out from the back. His face had gone pale. 700,000, he said quickly. "But sir, if we had known who your wife was..." "You wouldn't have treated her that way," Blake finished, turning slightly. "That's the problem." Mr. Duca opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Blake pulled out his phone, tapped a few times, then held it up. "Check your account." Duca's phone buzzed almost instantly. He looked down. "Wire received $700,000. Blake didn't wait for a thank you. He turned to Vanessa. "Wrap it up." She hesitated. "Sir, "For my wife," he said, voice level. "And do it like you would for anyone you respect." Vanessa nodded and stepped back, her hands trembling slightly as she moved to prepare the necklace. Blake looked around the boutique, eyes calm but sharp. "The way you treat people says more about your brand than anything you sell." And then, without another word, he walked back outside. Anna was still seated on the bench, sunlight catching strands of her hair. She looked up as he approached, and when he knelt in front of her, she smiled, not out of pride, but something softer, something grateful. Blake opened the velvet box and held it out to her. She blinked. "You bought it?" He nodded. "Now you don't have to ask anyone's permission to wear it." Anna looked down at the necklace, then back at him. "I wasn't sure I even wanted it anymore." Blake's voice was quiet. "I didn't buy it because you needed it. I bought it because they needed to see who you are." She didn't say anything for a while, then she reached out and touched his hand. Behind them, through the glass, the boutique staff stood frozen, watching the scene unfold like it was the end of a movie they didn't understand. But outside it was real, and it wasn't over. The ride home was quiet. Not the awkward kind, but the kind that happens when two people don't need to fill the space with words. Anna held the necklace in her lap, the box closed. She hadn't put it on. Blake drove, one hand resting on the wheel, the other gently brushing her knee now and then, just to remind her he was there. "They didn't just humiliate me," Anna finally said, her voice low. "They made me feel small, like I didn't belong in a world I've already given so much to." Blake didn't answer right away. He knew her better than to offer quick comfort. Instead, he said, "Do you want me to do something more?" She shook her head. "I want to do something more." That evening, the video hit 1 million views. Not the boutique's security footage, not yet, but the cell phone recording of the guard checking Anna's tote bag. Edited with slow zooms and laughing emojis, it made her look ridiculous. Comments poured in. Why'd she walk in there dressed like that anyway? You can't afford class, no matter how hard you try. She was definitely stealing, just look at her. Anna didn't cry. She didn't read them all, but she read enough. Blake's phone buzzed over dinner. He looked at it, frowned, then turned it over without saying anything. Anna noticed. "What?" "They found out who I am," he said. "People are starting to connect the dots. It's moving fast." "Let them," Anna said. A pause. Then she added, "They were so proud to tear me down. Let them sit with the truth now." The next morning, the security footage leaked, clear as day. Anna walking in, polite, quiet, asking about the necklace, Vanessa's dismissive wave, the group of women filming her, the guard approaching outside, and then Blake arriving. The internet flipped overnight. That's his wife? She handled that with so much grace I would have burned the place down. The way he put the necklace on her, I cried. Suddenly, the same people who mocked her were reposting clips with hashtags like #GraceUnderFire and #Anna Ruiz deserved better. But Anna wasn't chasing applause. She didn't post a response. She didn't call a press conference. She didn't go live. She sat at her kitchen table with a mug of chamomile tea and a legal pad and started writing. 2 hours later, she called a friend from her non-profit days. "I want to set up a fund," she said, "for women who've been pushed out of spaces they belonged in, corporate, academic, retail, anywhere." Her friend paused. "With what money?" Anna looked at the velvet box on the counter. "With a necklace I no longer care to wear." The headlines came fast. "Wife of billionaire launches fund after boutique incident." From humiliation to hope, Anna Ruiz turns viral moment into movement. But Anna stayed quiet. She didn't give interviews, she didn't pose for magazines or accept invitations to speak on panels. She kept her head down and worked. They called it the Lumiere Fund, named not after the diamond, but after something deeper. Light through the cracks. Its mission was simple: support women who'd been underestimated, overlooked, or mistreated in high-pressure, high-status environments. Legal help, leadership training, scholarships for women in retail trying to break into management, research grants for universities studying bias in luxury spaces. The first, $700,000, the full value of the necklace, went into the fund. Blake offered to match it, then 2 of his friends did the same. Within weeks, it had raised over $5 million. Meanwhile, the fallout for Maison Vert was just beginning. The boutique tried to release a statement, something vague about reviewing policies and committing to inclusivity, but it was too little, too late. The internet had already decided. Yelp reviews tanked. Former employees came forward with stories, some worse than Anna's. One woman shared a voice recording of Vanessa mocking customers behind their backs. Another posted screenshots from the boutique's internal group chat, where clients were routinely ranked by appearance. Within a month, Vanessa was fired. The younger man, Ethan, quietly resigned. And Mr. Duca? He was named in a lawsuit. Not by Anna, she didn't need revenge, but by Monroe Ventures, Blake's company, which announced it would be funding a class action lawsuit on behalf of anyone who had experienced discrimination at the store. The message was clear. This wasn't about one necklace or one woman, it was about a culture. And cultures don't change until they're forced to look at themselves. Back at home, Anna sat in her garden one morning, legs tucked under her, sipping tea as the sun came through the leaves. A small stack of envelopes sat beside her and handwritten letters, from women she didn't know. A former stylist fired for being too plain. A student kicked out of a networking event for not wearing heels. A young mother mistaken for a nanny at a private art show. Each letter said the same thing in its own way. Thank you for not getting angry. Thank you for getting louder in your own way. Anna didn't reply to all of them, but she read every single one. She never saw herself as someone who wanted the spotlight, but somehow she had become a mirror. And people, especially women, were finally seeing themselves in her reflection. 6 weeks after the incident, Maison Vert quietly shut its doors. No grand announcement, no apology tour, just a note on the door that read "Closed for renovations." But everyone knew it wasn't about paint or carpet. Their reputation had unravelled faster than their profits. The luxury world moved on, but Anna's story didn't fade. At a small university in upstate New York, a professor opened her Women in Business class with a clip of Anna sitting on that bench, tote in her lap, quiet and composed while the security guard hovered. At a non-profit conference in Chicago, her name was mentioned in a panel about quiet power and dignity in crisis. And in a private room somewhere in Los Angeles, a high-end brand held an emergency meeting with its staff to re-evaluate how front-facing employees treat walk-in clients. Anna never knew the full reach of what she had started. She wasn't tracking analytics or retweets. She was busy. She'd started holding small workshops, Nothing flashy, just gatherings of women across different industries. They shared stories, compared notes, some cried, some vented, all of them left feeling a little less alone. One afternoon, a familiar name showed up in her inbox. Diana Voss, the same woman who had laughed loudest in the boutique, the one who posted the photo with the mocking caption. Her message was short. I was cruel to you, there's no excuse, just shame. I don't expect forgiveness, but I needed to tell you I'm sorry. Anna stared at the screen for a long time. Then, without replying, she closed her laptop. Not every wound needed a response. That night, Blake came home late, his jacket slung over one shoulder. He found her in the kitchen, barefoot, eating cereal over the sink. He smiled. Fancy dinner? She smiled back, a little tired. Long day. He poured himself a bowl and stood beside her, both of them quiet again, in the way that felt full, not empty. After a moment, Blake said, "You know, I don't think they expected you to rise the way you did." Anna shrugged. "They expected me to disappear." "But you didn't," he said. She looked at him. "No, I didn't." And outside their kitchen window, the city lights blinked, unaware, or maybe just pretending not to notice, that something had shifted in the world. Not because someone yelled the loudest, but because someone stood still and didn't back down. A few months later, on a rainy Thursday morning, Anna received a letter. Not an email, not a typed note, but a handwritten letter in navy ink on thick cream paper. It was from a young woman named Marisol Torres. She was 24, worked at a high-end department store in Miami. On the sales floor, 5 days a week, in heels that hurt and a name tag that never quite sat straight. She wrote about being passed over for promotions 3 times. Not because she wasn't qualified, but because she wasn't the right face for the luxury brand. "I watched what they did to you," she wrote, "and somehow it gave me the courage to speak up about what they've done to me." Anna folded the letter carefully, then reached for her notebook. By the end of the day, the Lumiere Fund had a new program in place, Workplace Courage Grants. Small funds, $2,000 at a time, to help women like Marisol get legal support, therapy, or just a few months of breathing room to leave a toxic job and look for something better. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't on the news, but it mattered. Anna didn't want a stage, she wanted a ripple, and ripples were starting to spread. One of the most surprising came from within her own circle. A friend, someone she'd known since college, called out of the blue. "Anna," she said, "do you remember that night we snuck into the campus gala wearing thrift store dresses?" Anna laughed. "How could I forget? You were wearing that sparkly scarf that smelled like lavender and regret." "I never told you this," her friend said, voice softer now. "But a woman on the committee told me we looked like charity cases trying to feel rich for a night. I carried that with me for years." Anna was quiet. "She's on a board now," her friend added. "One of the ones that just donated to your fund." There it was again, the twist. The way the world folds in on itself. How people who once dismissed you suddenly want to be part of your impact. Anna didn't gloat, she didn't post about it. She just smiled and said, "Good, let them help build what they once tried to break." That night, she and Blake walked through their neighbourhood, the sky low and grey, leaves sticking to the sidewalk. At the corner, a girl no older than 10 stopped Anna with wide eyes. "Are you the necklace lady?" she asked shyly. Anna knelt down, smiled. "Maybe, why do you ask?" "My mum showed me your picture, she said you're brave." Anna looked at the girl, saw a softness there, but also something strong, something forming. "I think your mum's brave too," Anna said. The girl nodded. "She said we can be brave together." Anna stood, her throat tightening a little. And as they continued their walk, hand in hand with Blake, she realised something. This had never been about a necklace. It had always been about the story people tell themselves when they feel invisible. And now, finally, someone was telling a different one. Autumn came gently that year. The city cooled down, leaves turned gold at the edges, and the sharp heat that once clung to every sidewalk gave way to something softer. Anna found herself slowing down too, not because she was tired, but because things had started to settle in a different way. She was no longer reacting to what had happened. She was building something from it. On a Tuesday afternoon, she visited a community college just outside Philadelphia, where the Lumiere Fund had helped set up a new leadership seminar for women in hospitality. She sat quietly in the back of the room, blending in with the dozen students, most of them juggling jobs and coursework, some mothers, some recent immigrants, all determined. The speaker that day was a woman named Reena Shah, a hotel manager who had once been passed over for a promotion because her accent was too strong. She shared her story without bitterness, but with clarity. And the moment she finished, the room burst into applause. Not polite, but real, raw, earned. Afterward, Rena walked over to Anna, a little breathless. "I've never spoken in public before," she admitted. "You wouldn't know it," Anna smiled. "You had us all holding our breath." Rena looked down. "Thank you. I never thought someone like me would be asked to teach anything. I'm still getting used to that." Anna nodded. "It's not about being used to it. It's about getting loud enough that no one forgets you belong." Later that evening, Anna returned to her hotel, a quiet, no-frills place tucked between two busier buildings. The front desk clerk recognized her. "You're her, right?" he asked gently. Anna smiled. "Depends, am I in trouble?" He laughed, nervous. No, I just wanted to say thank you. My sister follows your fund. She applied for one of the grants. She's going back to school now." Anna's smile softened. "Tell her I'm proud of her, really." When she got to her room, there was a small box waiting for her, wrapped in brown paper, no note. Inside was a handmade bracelet. On a tiny silver charm was engraved, "Keep going." She didn't know who sent it. She didn't need to. That night, she sat on the edge of the bed and looked out the window at the city lights blinking like quiet reminders that progress doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it looks like a room full of strangers nodding along to a story they'd been too afraid to tell. And sometimes it feels like a bracelet from someone who just wanted her to know. She made them believe again. In the background, her phone buzzed. Another message, another thank you, another story from someone she'd never met. But before she opened it, Anna did something else. She closed her eyes and whispered to herself, "Keep going." On the anniversary of the boutique incident, Anna didn't plan a speech. She didn't post a reflection or throw a fundraiser. She spent the day the way she always said she would. Quietly, intentionally, without ceremony. She and Blake drove out to the edge of town, past the city limits where traffic thinned and the trees got taller. There was a small diner they used to visit when they were younger. Before titles, before boardrooms, before the world expected anything of them. The waitress recognised them, though she pretended not to. Anna ordered pancakes. Blake got black coffee and eggs. They didn't talk about the past year, not out loud, but it sat between them like an extra cup on the table. They both felt it. When the check came, Blake reached for his wallet. Anna stopped him. "I've got it." He raised an eyebrow. "You sure?" She grinned. "I'm not the one who bought a diamond necklace just to prove a point." They both laughed, and the waitress smiled from across the room without knowing why. Later that afternoon, they returned home, a modest 2-story house with ivy curling around the porch and a wind chime that sang when it wanted to. In the hallway, a glass case stood against the wall. Inside it, the necklace. Not to wear, not anymore. It sat on display now, part of a travelling exhibit called Symbols of Change, curated by a university museum that had asked Anna's permission months ago. She agreed, on one condition, that it be surrounded by the stories of the women her fund had helped. The display travelled from city to city, drawing in thousands of visitors. Not because it was expensive, but because it meant something. That night, Anna stood in front of it with a glass of water in one hand and a cardigan draped over her shoulders. She didn't stare at the necklace. She stared at the photos behind it. Women of all ages, all backgrounds, holding signs, diplomas, children, courage. Blake stepped up beside her. "You ever think about how this all started?" he asked softly. Anna nodded. "Yeah, it started with a door that opened and a bunch of people who thought they had the right to shut it behind me." "And now?" he asked. She took a breath. "Now I leave it open." They stood there for a while, not saying much, just listening to the soft creak of the house settling and the rustle of leaves outside. And in that silence there was peace. Not the kind you earn by being loud or by winning, but the kind that comes when you know who you are, and you no longer need anyone's permission to be it. Months passed, and life softened around the edges again. The media moved on. New headlines took the place of the old ones. But for Anna, nothing had gone back to before. She didn't want it to. She had grown into this newer version of herself, still calm, still kind, but now steadier, like a tree that had been through a storm and learned exactly where its roots were. One afternoon, she was invited to speak at a small gathering at a public library just outside Denver. It wasn't a big event. No red carpet, no stage lights, just folding chairs, lukewarm coffee, and a circle of women who had each faced something hard and kept going anyway. Anna almost didn't go. She didn't see herself as a speaker. But when she stepped into that quiet room and saw the eyes waiting for her, tired, hopeful, curious, she knew she was in the right place. She didn't bring notes, she didn't talk about diamonds or boutiques or lawsuits. She told them about that morning, about standing in front of the glass case, being treated like nothing, and about how that moment didn't break her, it revealed her. "I used to think strength was about proving people wrong," she said. "Now I think it's about staying soft when the world tells you to harden." There was a pause, then a hand raised in the back. A woman, maybe in her 50s, asked, "Do you ever wish it hadn't happened?" Anna smiled, thoughtful. "No," she said. "I wish it hadn't happened to so many others, but to me, no. Because what came after, that's where the real story is." After the talk, one of the younger women approached her. She had short hair, nervous hands, and a quiet voice. "I brought something," she said, pulling a folded note from her bag. "I wrote it the night I watched your video. I wasn't planning to give it to anyone, but thank you for showing me there's a way through." Anna took the note gently, her heart catching in her throat. "Thank you," she said. "That's the whole reason I'm here." When she got home that night, the house was still. Blake had fallen asleep on the couch, glasses half tucked into the collar of his shirt, a book resting on his chest. Anna tiptoed over, kissed his forehead, then walked quietly to her study. She opened the drawers where she kept letters, dozens of them now. Some angry, some grateful, some simply confused, but all of them real. She added the new one to the pile, closed the drawer, and sat back in her chair. Outside, wind moved through the trees, a low hum filled the night. Anna closed her eyes and breathed it in. Not the end of something, but the gentle, steady beginning of everything that came next. You know, sometimes it's not the loudest people who change things. It's the quiet ones, the ones who keep showing up with kindness, even when the world doesn't show it back. If this story made you feel something, maybe seen, maybe inspired, maybe just a little more hopeful, then I'm glad we crossed paths today. Thank you for watching this video, out of the thousands you could have clicked on. We're genuinely grateful you chose to spend your time here with us. If you enjoyed the story, feel free to give it a like, subscribe to the channel, or leave a comment. We read them, and we carry your words with us. Wishing you peace, happiness, and the quiet strength to keep being exactly who you are. Take care, and we'll see you again on Rain Inside.